Helen made initially is quite correct, that the material is not outside the realm of standing orders. It's how questions are asked about it. I invite the Honourable Chris Carter to bring his question within standing orders.
Speaker, how does she reconcile her statement to the House just a few minutes ago that she clarified this matter with the NZDI in September before their October edition, when the date that I've just quoted is the 20th of October?
Mr. Speaker,
Honourable Anne Tolley.
I haven't seen that statement.
Order.
Can I remind?
Order.
Can I remind the member of what's printed here in the NZDI's own document and repeat that I clarified, I made the statement, I had communications widely with the sector groups throughout September and October, and I made it very clear to them that there would be no legislative exemption for teachers and other staff.
Point of order, the Honourable Chris Carter.
Mr. Speaker, I seek leave of the House to table the October edition of Ruru, in which Mrs Tolley clearly states teachers will be exempted.
Any objection to that document being tabled? No objection. Point of order, the Honourable Chris Carter.
Mr. Speaker, I seek leave of the House to submit a transcript of a speech shown on Television 1 on the 11th of December of Mrs Tolley telling the NZDI meeting in Rotorua that teachers would be exempt.
Can I just seek from the honourable member, was the member seeking to have that tabled?
Yes, I'm seeking the transcript to be tabled.
To be tabled. Is there any objection to that transcript being tabled? There is no objection. Come now to question 4. Amy Adams.
Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Minister for ACC and asks, what advice has he received on increased costs for ACC over the term of this Parliament, and when was he first advised of these?
Honourable Nick Smith.
Officials sought an urgent briefing immediately after the Prime Minister's announcement of my appointment and before I was sworn in as Minister. They advised that ACC had a significant funding crisis in the non-earners account that required an additional appropriation of $297 million, or an additional 32% this financial year, arising from escalating costs. I have subsequently been advised of significant blowouts in the other accounts, with an average 26% increase in costs for next year. The total increased cost for the term of this Parliament is $4.093 billion.
Mr. Speaker.
Amy Adams.
Supplementary question, Mr. Speaker. Will the government have to increase ACC levies on workers, employers and motor vehicles to meet this multi-billion-dollar blowout?
Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Nick Smith.
Officials have recommended very substantial levy increases on all the accounts for this and subsequent years to fund these blowouts. The government's view is that households and businesses are in no position to be facing huge additional ACC levies. This has to be balanced against the legal requirement to fully fund ACC over the medium term. The levy increases I will be detailing this afternoon for the earners and work accounts are half those that are recommended by the Department of Labour. We will be advancing work urgently to contain costs and to investigate extending the full funding period to minimise these increases in future years.
Honourable Ruth Dyson.
Mr. Speaker, is the Minister aware that ACC conducted a widely publicised public consultation process prior to the election, outlining the proposed levy rates for 09-010? And if he isn't aware of that fact, what does that say about his attention to detail? And if he is aware of that fact, why didn't he tell Bill English and John Key to stop them making fools of themselves by suddenly being shocked by these proposed levy rates?
Order. The Honourable
Nick
Smith may choose to answer whichever of those questions he chooses.
Mr. Speaker, the basic problem is that the levies on which the previous government consulted with the community were significantly less than what is required to fund the blowouts. And the part that I find extraordinary about the Labor Party is that they have dismissed these sums as insignificant, and that's perhaps why the new government is facing a decade of deficits.
Order. Craig Foss. Order.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Supplementary to the Minister. What advice has the Minister received on the accuracy of a statement by the Honourable David Parker in respect of the non-earners account blowout not being in the pre-election fiscal update? The statement that reads, "Papers show that ministers acted appropriately throughout, as the money needed had not been quantified until the election period."
Mr Speaker.
Honourable Nick Smith.
The money needed was clearly identified in a report to the former minister on the 14th of August, based on a PricewaterhouseCoopers valuation. A further 60-page technical report was completed by ACC on the 22nd of August that confirmed those figures. The election was not called until the 12th of September, and the pre-election fiscal update close-off was the 8th of September, after the previous government had that information.
Craig Foss.
Supplementary to the Minister. Is the Minister aware of the Cabinet Minute of December 10, 2007, noted increased cost in the non-earners account and requiring the then Minister to report back on a clear funding policy before the levy setting process began in August 2008? And if so, did this occur?
Mr Speaker.
Honourable Nick Smith.
Yes, there was a very clear Cabinet Minute last December requiring the previous minister to report back on funding issues in the non-earners account. This did not occur, and there is no explanation as to why it did not occur.
Craig Foss.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Supplementary to the Minister. Has the Minister received any advice about the accuracy of the statement issued by the former Labor Minister for ACC as to why the blowout was not included in the pre-election fiscal update?
Speaker.
Honourable Nick Smith.
Yes, the statement is inaccurate in 3 respects. It says the first advice the previous minister received was on the 14th of August, yet the Chief Executive of ACC has advised me that the previous minister was given a heads-up in May. The statement also claims that the paper dated 14th of August says, and I quote, "approximately $300 million per annum, 2009 to 2013. The paper actually never uses the word approximately, but notes the change in baselines was $305.654 million and gives equal accuracy in subsequent years. Contrary also to Ms Street's statement, it also specifically notes a request for increased appropriations in this financial year, something she did not disclose."
Craig Foss.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Supplementary to the Minister. What advice has the Minister received on the accuracy of the claim by the Honourable David Parker that it would have been constitutionally inappropriate for the Labor government to address this urgent problem in the non-earners account during the election period?
Mr Speaker.
Honourable Nick Smith.
The statement is also incorrect.